but I'm going to be using more of my iPad than anything. All right, so we're ready to start. We did chapter 3, which was really the alphabet along with some components, diphthongs, vowels, diphthongs, and some punctuation or accent marks. And so we're going to kind of revisit that very quickly, and I want to move into chapter 4. Chapter 4, there's 3 parts that we're going to focus on. Punctuation, we're going to amplify upon it a little bit, and syllabification. Syllabification is how we divide the word up in order to pronounce it. So now we'll get into reading, really. And then we're going to actually look at vocabulary. I think you'll find the vocabulary, especially in this chapter, a lot of it's going to be recognizable. You're not going to have a lot of significance. But you do want to spend time with vocabulary. It's good, like you mentioned last week or Tuesday, we can read the Greek, but understanding it depends upon a couple of things. Number one is, what does the word mean? Number 2 is going to be what grammatical structure or changes that occurred in the word. And I want to introduce some of that today. So let's go ahead and dive into this. So I'm going to start with here and let you read the alphabet for us.
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega.
Okay, very good. Now the Omicron, I think you said Omicron. I normally put it with a short O, Omicron.
Omicron. Okay.
Yeah.
So not Omicron, Omicron.
Well, I don't know for a fact. Obviously, there are different pronunciations throughout the world and accents and such. So I normally have learned it and recognized as Omicron because we're going to learn and we're going to use the Erasmian pronunciation, which is going to differentiate between the Omicron and the Omega. Omicron being a short O, versus the Omega being a long O. And so, like I say, different pronunciations, tomato, potato. No, that's not right. So anyway, and of course you did well, I think, with the alphabet. Really pretty good, Samuel. It's really good for the first time through here the first week. So I could tell you've been spending some time with it, and that's good. It'll get more comfortable, even more comfortable as we go further in this. All right. So we did talk about the vowels. Recognize the vowels. You want to name them for them? They're right there for us.
Alpha, epsilon, eta, iota, omicron, upsilon.
Omicron was right the first time. Omicron was
right.
right.
Oh, okay. Omicron.
Like an omelet, right? Omelet.
Yes, sir.
Omicron. So, I mean, if you want to say Omicron, I'm not going to keep correcting you.
No, I want to say it right. I want to say it right.
Here's the point. There's really not a right, quote, way. It just depends upon what's right. I want to say what's right for you because accurate pronunciation helps us to memorize, to recognize and memorize words and to communicate with each other so that we're, although most people will recognize Omicron versus Omicron, I think the common pronunciation is Omicron.
Omicron. Yes, sir.
All right. And so do you remember which one of these are long vowels versus short at all? Does that, any idea?
I don't.
Okay. So I don't have a chart on this. Let's see if I can actually write on here. Okay. Let's see if that works. It should used to work on here. So let's see if it does. So let's start with the short vowels. Okay. So epsilon is short. Oh, come on. You're not writing. Why are you not writing? You're killing me here. It's acting like I'm writing, but it's because it asked me to discard it when I'm not. Let me try it here. Stop that. I moved to this Zoom so I can write because I've always done it. And right now I'm not being able to write. It's driving me crazy. No, I don't want to do that. I should be able to write. let's go ahead and go back to slideshow from current. And here's my writing things right here. All right, select the pen. All right, select the pen right here. Select that pen right there. Okay. And I should be able to go. I wonder if it's my pen. I bet you there's something in my pen that's not right. No, I used it in here the other day. It's my pen. Oh, because it's not communicating. It is with my finger. Well, all right. I guess we're not writing today. I'm going to have to figure this out because that's going to kill me. All right. Sorry about this. All right,
No,
so,
you're good.
no, it's not. It's frustrating. All right. So the short vowels would be the epsilon and the omicron. And like I said, it's not significant that you absolutely know that, but it will help you as you move forward. The long vowels are the eta and the omega. Everything else is changeable from long or short or long. And the fact that they do change, that's what you're going to want to recognize because they will change. So the short vowels are the epsilon and the omicron. The long vowels are the eta and the omega. So the alpha, the iota, and the upsilon would be changeable from short to long or long to short. Okay, they can lengthen or reduce. Well, what about the diphthongs? Do you understand what a diphthong is?
Yes, sir. It's two vowels together that make one sound.
Perfect, right. And so you notice in this slide, it makes it a little easier to recognize. There's kind of an order to it. Vowels, diphthongs that end with an iota, often, not every case, not every vowel combination ends with the iota is going to be a diphthong. For example, alpha iota is a diphthong, epsilon iota is a diphthong, omega iota is a diphthong, upsilon iota is a diphthong, but eta iota is not. Okay, actually, eta iota is going to be an improper diphthong and iota subscript later on. But omega iota, I don't know if there are words with omega iota, is not a diphthong. So that's the point, is the alpha, the epsilon, the omicron, and the upsilon ending with the iota are diphthongs. And the pronunciation, as you notice, is one sound and not two different sounds. Now, if we were to put two little dots, here's where I'm writing over, say, any one of these iotas, or, okay, I can't answer, Connie. Decline. All right, so I'm teaching a class. I'm teaching right now. Okay, so where's my PowerPoint? All right. So if you were to put two dots above these diphthongs, what would that, do you remember what that's called and what that would represent?
Can't remember the name, but isn't it when they're not a diphthong?
Yes, that's right. So you actually then pronounce them as two separate sounds. So yeah, that's absolutely correct. So if you look on page diaresis, I think is the name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Diaresis. And I think that's on page, hold on, what chapter am I in now? Chapter 3. Diphthongs and
It's on page 12.
thank you. Yeah, there's number 3 on page 12. Yeah,
Yes,
there's-
sir.
So yeah, no replacement with the second vowel. All right, so Zoom won't let her log on. Okay. About an hour. She's probably trying to set up the digging deep class for the ladies. Okay, so that's very good. And then we have the iota subscript. It's also an improper diphthong. And these are really the alpha iota, eta iota, omega iota, but the iota then subscripts goes underneath as depicted here. And do you remember how to pronounce the alpha iota subscript with the alpha, the eta, and the omega?
I don't.
Okay, so we don't pronounce the iota. Once it subscripts, there's no pronunciation. You just pronounce the vowel that's remaining, the alpha, the eta, and the omega. So it's important to know this because a lot of words are really going to be based on this subscript iota down the road here. But it's very, very common. We'll see it often, and it will help define how the word is functioning and what's happening with it. So, can you pronounce the diphthongs down the road? We've got that in front of you.
So for the diphthong of alpha, iota would be I or I.
Yeah.
And then A, and then O,
Oi,
Oi,
right? Oi,
We,
right? Sweet, we.
Ow,
Yep, sauerkraut
You,
and feud, right?
Oo.
And then group. Yep, exactly. Very good. It's fun, isn't it? Oh, look, I'm writing with my finger now. You see, but I can't write. So it's my pen. I've got to figure that out. All right. Well, at least I know. So
Gotta use the finger, I guess.
yeah. Well, I might do that. I don't know. Kind of depends. Here markings. Okay. So if I go back here and I could say alpha. Yeah, but I can't really write well with my finger. Clear markings. We'll see. Maybe we'll see. All right. All right. Get out of that. Go back to. I don't have to do that every time.
But in the case of, like you were saying with the iota subscript, you would not pronounce that iota. You would just pronounce that alpha, that eta, or that omega.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
All right. All right. So let's look at more about punctuation. Yeah. All right. In Greek and English, the period and the comma are the same, no problem, right? So period, here I can write period and a comma. The semicolon for Greek, there is no English equivalent in terms of semicolon in Greek is just semicolon in English is like this, right? That's not a semicolon in Greek. A semicolon has the little dot, raised dot, okay? It's like the semicolon without the comma underneath, right? It's all it is. So you don't want to be confused. Well, it's pretty easy when you see the raised dot. It is a semicolon, okay? The question mark is a colon in the Greek. And so in English, we have the question mark. And so when we translate this little semicolon or this colon, we would translate it with a question mark, okay? And that's all that is. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. I should be able to stop this in this. Next one, I do it that way. I hate doing it that all the time. That's not right. And what happened to mine? Huh. All right, diacriticals, that is, why did my slide change here? It's frustrating. Let me get out of this, go to here. Okay, move that so we could see it. There we go. We'll just stay here for a bit. All right. So in English, we could take the word cannot, two different, or one word, cannot, or two different words, and we can put an apostrophe and shorten it by can't, right? C-A-N apostrophe T. Do the same thing in Greek, right? We could take two words, apo, that's not supposed to be a pi there. Let me change that. Let me, come on, let me get in here. I don't know. Okay. I don't know if I can write in Greek on my iPad is all. I'm writing on my computer, it's easy, but I'm not as comfortable. But yeah, let me try this. Let me see if it'll change to Greek. Hebrew. I don't want that. Hebrew, I don't want Hebrew. Oh, Greek. Okay, so let me do this. Let me back up and put the epsilon. There we go. Okay. That's good enough. All right. So there, that's wrong again. Okay. So we do the same thing in Greek. Apo emu, we're about what that means later, would oftentimes take that last vowel and put an apostrophe in its place when it comes next to, all right, let's see. Let me do it this way. Slideshow. I hate to kind of keep doing this over and over. Okay, and it'll put this apostrophe in its place when it comes up to another word that has a vowel next to it. And the reason is, think logically, okay? Logically, sometimes bringing two vowels together and making those two sounds one after another in a smooth way is not always easy. Sometimes it's not a problem. The os, epsilon, omicron, not a problem. But oftentimes it may not be. Omicron, epsilon, AF, it's just more simpler and easier read to basically replace the first vowel or the last vowel of the first word with an apostrophe. So instead of apa emu, it's a more smoother reading, ap emu. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all it's
So
doing.
you don't pronounce that last vowel anymore in
Right,
the
it's
apo.
gone.
You just say apa emu.
Yeah, but the apostrophe is important because it tells you there was a vowel there. All right.
Okay.
And you'll want to know that there was a vowel. You may not know what a vowel it is, but there was a vowel there. So instead of apa emu, it's ap emu, and so you can read it a little smoother, ap emu,
Apa emu.
and down the line. Okay, and also we talked a little bit last week about accents. Accents were originally, most people believe, were pitch. If it was an acute that is going up, what would you do? You'd rise in your pitch, right? You go higher in your pitch, which I can't do. A grave accent would be you're going down in your pitch, where a circumflex accent would be you're going up and then down. So you would, in that vowel sound, you would have an up and down within the sound. Now that's, I guess if you're musical, maybe you can do that. I cannot. But we generally today do not look and use it as pitch. It's just where we put the stress on the accent, and that is important. So iteo is where we're going to put the accent is iteo. Iteo, we're just going to put a stress there. Theos, it's not theos, it's theos. And then same with a circumflex. It almost, to a degree, doesn't matter whether you're talking about acute, a grave, or circumflex. There is a reason. There are rules for these, and I don't know I want to dive into the time at this point. I think later on we might pick up a little more about these accents, why it's a circumflex, why it's a grave, why it's an acute, and where, especially, I'll tell you this much, on nouns, normally you'll find the accents pretty consistently in the same place. There are times they move, but generally it's going to be pretty consistent. It wants to stay in the same place on nouns. When we get to verbs, it doesn't want to stay in the same place. Matter of fact, it wants to move closer to the beginning of the word to put the stress at the beginning. it really tries to do that, but it cannot always do it. Matter of fact, most times it doesn't. For this point in our study, let's just note that an acute or the accent, whether it's acute, a grave, or circumflex, we want to put the stress on that syllable, right? So iteo, theos, and agnos. It would be where we put the stress of the syllable, and that's all that's doing. Make sense? You okay?
Yes, sir. So those stress marks are the dashes above the epsilon.
The accents above
Yes, sir.
above the vowels. It'll be on vowels, so always on vowels, or diphthong. And if it's on the diphthong, it'll be on the second vowel. So anyway, yeah.
Okay, and they can even come in that, I see those two dashes of the accents, but that third one, the circumflex, that kind of
Well,
laying down S is one as
in
well.
a lot of places, really the circumflex, that's how my typewriter types it, okay? If I do this, a lot of places circumflex is going to be, hold on a minute, let me write. It's going to be more like this. Well, like, I don't know, hard to write with your pen. There you go, more like that.
Okay.
Something of that nature.
So
right?
it's not going to be that squiggle. It's just, but it's
Well, you
the
can't.
important
As a
thing
matter
is
of
to
fact,
look for.
there's a slight difference between the two. They're called two different names, but they
Okay.
really function the exact same thing. And so originally, it was always believed that this is a stress going up, right? Stress going up and then down on the vowel, on the syllable, excuse me. And but right now, it's just where we put the stress on the accent. So it doesn't matter. Stress is there, and stress is there. Doesn't really matter per se. It does matter, but in terms of where you're putting the stress, it doesn't matter if you're talking about acute, or grave, or circumflex. It's just where we're going to stress the syllable. That's all.
Yes, sir.
Later on, we'll probably pick up a little more about this because there are some reasons and some difference. There are some rules, and it's pretty cool. For me, if you're a Greek geek like I am, then there are some reasons for that. Okay, so now I want to move into pronunciation, syllabification. But before I do that, I want to introduce a couple of things. A lot of this stuff is intuitive and you already know. You just don't think about it. I'm not going to get into linguistics here. I love studying language. I'm certainly not a linguistics person. But linguistics is a study of language. It includes phonology, that is sound patterns, right? E, O, sounds. And morphology. Morphology is how the words form, patterns for words. Also, syntax, which is patterns for the sentences, and then semantics, meaning for the various components, all right? So when you talk about grammar, and that's what we're studying is grammar. Grammar includes the morphology, word patterns. Come on, people. That's one of the problems of using your pad. So, fine, thank you. Go back. All right, so get rid of that. Okay, so grammar, which is what we're studying, includes morphology, semantics, meanings, and syntax, sentence patterns. So in grammar, we're going to look at all three of these things, although our emphasis is going to be predominantly on morphology, word patterns, and semantics. We'll also have some syntax. Syntax is like a little more advanced, but we'll do some of that because it is important. But we're going to emphasize morphology and semantics. I want to talk about morphology here for a minute. I got those blank slides here. Okay, so when you think about how words are formed, the smallest unit of meaning is going to be a morpheme, right? And we're going to show you a little bit about this. The smallest unit of meaning is a morpheme, and a morpheme combines, or can be, some morphemes can be the word, but they combine to form a word, and various words combine to form a phrase. Various phrases can combine, or words to form a clause, and a sentence, and a paragraph, a chapter, a book. In our case, because we're emphasizing biblical Greek, the Testament, the Old and the New Testament, and the big picture, the meta narrative. And there's meaning on every single level. So one of the things we emphasize a lot of times, people say, well, did you do your word study? You do word studies. Well, we try to put the emphasis on meaning in the word. Well, there's meaning at every level. And so we don't want to just or to neglect the meaning at every level. A word study in of itself is good, but let's not ignore the phrases, the clauses, the sentence, the paragraph, the narrative across every level. And the morphemes, really, once you sort of get the picture and understanding how words are formed, it kind of makes, or not kind of, it does make sense and helps us to understand more about what the meaning of the word. Matter of fact, when you understand some morphemes and begin understanding the smallest unit of meaning, then all of a sudden it becomes a little easier to recognize meanings of words that you don't even know, because you start to recognize the components, the parts, the morpheme. So let me show you a couple little examples. So morphology is the study of the written form of the language. Specifically, the smallest unit of speech is the morpheme we talked about. And for example, the word dog, D-O-G, is a morpheme. It's the smallest unit of meaning. Dog has a meaning, right? You know what a dog is. It's called a free morpheme. In other words, there's no attachments. There's no prefix, no suffix, no inflex. There's nothing attached to it. But if you add another morpheme called like the S to it and you get dogs, well, now you change the meaning of the word from singular dog to plural. The S has a meaning, and as it's a morpheme in of itself, and dog is a morpheme in of itself. But and you get technical here. The dog is a free morpheme. There's no attachments. The S is a bound morpheme. It cannot stand alone. It's attached to something else. And the S itself gives typically a plural meaning. So context will determine whether or not that S at the end of a word actually functions as a standalone or a bound morpheme, has meaning in itself, or if it's just like in dogs, right? But like the S in thesis, thesis in itself is the morpheme. There's not a suffix to it or a morpheme that's added to it. Am I making sense? As you see how the words kind of form in parts by the smallest unit of meanings?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you had pointed out last session that it makes you really look at just the meanings of words in like our regular language, because I wouldn't think like, I get what it's saying, like dog is a morpheme in and of itself. It's got it's got its own meaning of it. But then I've never really thought about dogs changing the meaning to this plural now. And
Right.
so for us, we had these morphemes. So for them, they'd have that as well.
Yeah, so we're going to find the exact same thing in Greek, even more so, Greek and Hebrew, but even more so here in the Greek. Let me show you a little bit more. For example, we were talking about what morphology is a study of the written form of the language. The basic meaning of a Greek word is its root, okay? And we'll show you a couple examples. And you can add to the root different kinds of affixes. You could affix things, add to the different, to the root itself. You can put something before it, that's a prefix, you know that. I mean, we just don't think about it. You could put something after it, that'd be a suffix, or you can put something in the middle of it that's called an infix. So we'll see that all of the time, especially in Greek. You see it in English, some cases not as much. We use prefixes and suffixes considerably in English as we do in Greek. Not as much infixes, but we do some. For example, in the English, there's the longest English word outside of scientific terminology called anti-disestablishmentarianism, which its root is the three letters S-T-A, sta. And it has a meaning by itself. And then you have three different prefixes. Each one has a meaning. They're all morphemes, anti, dis, and e. And then there's six suffixes, bo from the word from able, ish, mit, ari, an, and ism. And so you get anti-disestablishmentarianism. It means the theory in opposition to the idea that the church should be separated from the state. So each one of these morphemes have meanings, and you put them to the root and it changes the meaning. We do it all the time in English. So this is nothing new. I'm highlighting it because it's really significant to see what's happening in the Greek. And And this is not in your book, but I think this is important to bring out because we're going to see all these changes in words and it can look daunting. Well, it's not. Okay. If you recognize their parts and if you can see the component parts and start to see how they put together, it makes more sense. It's logical. For example, these are called different units, right? So you can have changeable units and non-changeable ones, but that's neither here nor there. So, for example, the root in this case, and I'm going to do my writing here if I can make it work. Okay. All right. So let's see if I can write here. All right. So the root is the dal, zoom, the, and do not. Yeah, do not. And there's a prefix, the alpha, and a suffix, the os. And so when you put it together, you get adalas, which means guileless or without guile. Zoom os means without leaven, leavenless. Now, this word you might recognize. Theos means without God. And dunatos means without power. Those last two you might have seen or heard before. Dunatos is power, theos is God. You prefix with theos, dunatos, and you're godless or powerless. And you see you have these different prefixes and suffixes. In this case, they're also infixes, which we'll get to another time. And so what I just want to highlight is that although it can look complex and you see things changing, it's really very consistent. And once you sort of pick up on what's changing, you start to understand why it's changing, and you're like, this is not that hard. And that's what I wanted to try to bring out here. Does that make sense?
Yes, I just want to make sure I heard you right. The awe part is what's turning it into the godless. So, like
Yes.
theos is God,
Right.
and then atheos is
So
godless.
in this case, that's correct. Now, can be copulative. It can be, I forget the different words for it.
I just want to make sure it's that alpha that's turning it into
Yeah,
the left part.
the alpha can function different ways. Okay, in this case, it is making it. I forget the right word, but it is making it be godless and powerless, or without God, or sort of anti, without opposite. Okay, but alpha can function other ways too, so it doesn't just mean anti. That's what I'm trying to say. In this case, that's how it's being used. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's do this. Okay, and let's go to the next slide. All right. So that's sort of our introduction into the actual chapter 4, syllabification. Syllabification is a really big sounding word. It's just really syllables being pronounced. Okay, so we're going to divide a word into different parts or pieces so it can be pronounced, right? And you do this naturally in English. I mean, you don't even think about it. Some words may be harder than others, and you have to sort of, oh, wait a minute. But generally speaking, you do it very naturally. And it can be just read naturally in Greek, just like once you learn the sounds for the Greek letters, you can read it the same way you read English, just very natural. Or you can learn the rules. We're going to go over the rules, but over time, it just becomes kind of natural and become comfortable with it. All right, so what we want to do is, we mentioned reading is very much like English. Syllables are separated by vowels or diphthongs, so every syllable or every diphthong is a syllable. There are rules for them, and I thought I had the rules. Yeah, I do. They're coming up next. Okay. There are rules, and we'll kind of go through the rules. They're very simple, but it's really kind of natural. So notice the first word, and I've divided it out for you. Can you pronounce the first word?
Well, it's got the letters beside it, ego,
That's
but
it.
I was trying to read it without that. So and then go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so the epsilon is and that is a vowel, so it is a standalone syllable, and we'll show why in a minute. The gamma omega is a standalone syllable, and so you get go, ego, we put our accent on the O, ego. So our stress and our accent is on
Okay.
ego. What about the next word?
So phone.
Very good. Well, you're reading the English or the Greek, but either way, that's fine. You're seeing what's happening, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So one vowel is one syllable. The phi and the omega is a syllable. The noon and the eta is a syllable, and so we get fo nay.
And that stress mark is on the nay part.
Right, fo
It's
nay.
over that
Right,
eta.
right, exactly. So we just
Okay.
put our accent or stress there. It's not fo nay, it's fo nay.
Okay.
That's all that is. And that will become more natural as you go. So you see vowels or syllables are separated by vowels or diphthongs, and we'll see consonants, consonants are grouped with the vowels that follow it, right? Fo, nay. The phi is a consonant, the noon is a consonant, and it's grouped with the vowel that follows it. That's all it is. And same thing with like Chris, stos. So we'll go to the rules in a minute, but you see the key and the row and is like two consonants that can be pronounced together. And because they can be pronounced together, you do pronounce them together with the vowel that follows it. So you get thr, and then same with the sigma, the tau. You get two vowels that are two consonants that can be pronounced together. And so you do pronounce them together, and you get, and there's only one consonant or vowel, the omicron, followed by the sigma. And so that is one syllable, stos, Christos. Make sense? The lips are moving, but sound is not coming out.
I'm sorry. I don't know why. I
Funny
was trying to
because we're
zoom in
talking
and
about sound and there's no sound. So.
no, I was moving it and I was trying to zoom in to see it better, but no, that sigma and that tau together, that goes in our language though.
Yeah.
With like an ST. So it comes natural for the kind of part of it.
Exactly. And most of this will be very much the same, with some exceptions. We look at the next word, cosmos, right? They have a kappa, the omicron, and the sigma. That's one syllable because there's one vowel, and the kappa lead or is joined to the omicron, and the sigma is joined to it. We'll see in the rules, the sigma is joined with the omicron because you cannot put a sigma and a mu together. Right, the next two consonants is a sigma and the mu, and they don't go together in pronunciation and as a group, right? So it's cosmos, meaning world or universe. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to do this quickly, and we'll go through the rules, and then it'll start to make more sense. You'll see it happening in the rules. Okay, Iesus, right? Notice that you have the EA. There's two different vowels, and they're not a diphthong. So guess what? That's two different syllables.
Okay.
Sus. Us is the diphthong. And of course, it has a sigma preceding and following it. So Iesus. Jesus. Jesus. Right.
I was about to say, is that where like Jesus comes from? But Jesus.
It is where Jesus comes from, I believe. Yeah, I believe it is. That's correct. A lot of languages don't have the J, and so they use the, well, typically the Y or like Jehovah or something. I'm not 100% positive. I believe that's correct though. Prophetes, right? Prophetes.
Taste.
Right. So we'll go through the rules in a minute. The P and the rho can be pronounced together as two consonants. So it is, followed by the vowel. And it's kind of your clue. Okay, I'm not going to sound the P by itself. Ro. It's not parophetes, it's prophetes or prophetes. And in the fe, consonant with its vowel, there's your syllable, and taste, T, a tau, the eta, and the sigma, prophete. Well, the accent's going to be in the fe. Prophetes. Okay. Cardia, you may know what cardia means. You've heard it before, I promise you. Car, D, cardia. You know what it means?
I feel like I should.
Yeah.
Cardia.
If you go to a doctor,
Oh
who,
yeah, cardiologist.
there you go, heart, right?
So okay, cardia
Yeah, right. All right,
with
and
the
now
emphasis
compound.
or the accent being on the D.
Yeah,
So
that
cardia.
syllable. On that syllable, not necessarily the delta, but that syllable, right?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Cardia. All right, and then also compound words, they're going to be divided where you would naturally divide it, right? Now, each compound can have its own syllables. Anti, Christos. The compound is anti versus that's being added to Christos. So anti-Christos would be antichrist, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's do a little more of the rules. So we kind of touched a little bit on this, but now you'll see them. There's one vowel or diphthong per syllable, right? So here you have how many syllables? Just count the syllables for me.
One. Well, the way it's separated out makes me want to say there's 5, but
Are you thinking something different?
no, I just want to make sure that's right because it's way
Yeah,
it's
right.
separated out.
Listen, if you're wrong, we'll fix it. Okay, don't worry about it.
Okay,
But
so
yeah, there's
5.
5 syllables there, right? One, look at the definition. There's one vowel or diphthong per syllable. How many vowels do you have? Alpha, eta,
Alpha.
omicron, alpha, epsilon. 5 vowels. How many syllables are there? 5 syllables. It's that
Okay,
simple. Okay, it's that simple. So how would you pronounce this?
so like ke, ko, moon, me, men,
There you go. All right, so
ka,
do the kappa omicron again for me.
the kappa omicron,
Yeah,
uh, omelet. So ka,
yeah. Put it together.
okay, ka,
Put it together, the whole thing.
a, ke, ko, or ka, men.
All right, a little faster.
A, ke, ka, amen.
Okay, ka amen.
A, ke, ka, amen.
There you go. That's it. Okay, it's not complex. All right, now, so when per vowel, every vowel, every diphthong forms a syllable, right? So in this case, there are 5 vowels, there's 5 syllables. Also, a single consonant by itself, not a cluster, goes with the following vowel, right? So you see the rho and the alpha, the kappa and the alpha, the mu and the epsilon, followed by the noon. So the rho and the alpha, the kappa and the alpha, the mu and the epsilon, those are the consonants go with the following vowel. If you don't see the omega with the rho, you don't see the alpha with the kappa. Instead, it's a kappa with the alpha. So how many syllables are here?
So 5 again.
Yeah. All right. And so how would you pronounce this?
E, o, ra, ka, men.
All right. Very good. Do it a little faster.
E, o, ra, ka, men.
Rakamen, right?
Okay. E,
Yeah.
o, ra, ka, men.
That's it. We're going to learn vocabulary later. Okay. So now you know that, okay, every where there's one vowel or diphthong per syllable, right? And you also know now that when there's a single consonant, it is aligned with or connected to a vowel that follows it, right? And the rho and the alpha, the kappa and the alpha, and the mu and the nu, epsilon. Okay.
Okay, so with that consonant right there, so say where that uh row is with the alpha, if that was a diphthong, you would put the rho, the alpha, and the iota together
Yeah.
before the
So
kappa.
yeah.
I'm just saying if it was a diphthong though.
Right. Exactly. Diphthong would be the
So
same.
So it just it can't stand, the
gonna have a
consonants
consonant
can't
syllable.
stand by themselves.
That's right.
And then a consonant doesn't end a syllable.
It can, like men,
Okay.
right? It
Okay.
can. But right now, the rule here is talking about the consonant, single consonant, like the rho, the kappa, and the mu. Those are single
Yes, sir.
consonants, right? And it's aligned with, connects to the vowel that follows it. We hadn't talked about the last vowel, the last consonant, right?
Yes,
But
sir. Yes, sir.
so ra, ka, min, orakamin.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the third rule would be is that two consecutive vowels that do not form a diphthong are divided. Well, that makes sense. It's not a diphthong. Every vowel that's in diphthong is a single syllable. How many syllables are here?
6.
Yeah, the epsilon, two epsilon, there's the epsilon, the theta, the alpha, the sigma alpha, the mu epsilon, and the theta alpha, right? 6 syllables. How would you pronounce this?
A, sa, me, tha.
Right. Put it together.
A,
Well,
sa.
what, say the very beginning. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. A, sa, me, tha.
Right.
A, sa, me, tha.
The asameta. It's the asameta. At the asameta. Excuse me. Put the pronunciation.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so it's asamenta.
Yeah, very good. Now you don't want to. When I first started, I tried to rush it to make it sound good. Don't rush it. Just go through the asameta.
Asamenta.
Right.
Mentha.
Metha. Right.
Because that sigma alpha has the accent on there.
Right. Sa metha. Right. Okay. All right. And so also fourth rule, I think there's 6. A consonant cluster that cannot be pronounced together is divided, right? So the mu and the pi cannot be pronounced together. You cannot put them as one syllable because you can't go moop, 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 moop.
Yeah, doesn't roll
We don't
right.
make that sound in English, right? In order they,
Mhm.
so they're divided. So hence you get m pro sten, like so the sigma and the theta can be pronounced together. The pi and the rho can be pronounced together, but the mu and the pi cannot. And so they're divided that way. But notice again, there's how many syllables here? How many vowels are there?
How many vowels or syllables?
You tell me.
So there's 3 syllables.
How many vowels are there?
So there's three vowels.
Redundant
So
question, isn't it?
yeah. So you got
Right
the
there.
epsilon, and then the epsilon again. Okay.
How do you want to pronounce it?
Okay. M pro sin.
Okay, very good. Now do the pi rho omicron again.
Pro
Do it again.
pyro.
Pi rho omicron.
Okay. So pro or
Mhm.
pra.
There you go.
Pra.
We're going
So
to use the short. I want us to learn the
M
short. Be
pra
consistent, okay?
sin. Okay. So it's pra
Right.
there.
So
So M
notice,
pra sin. Okay.
say it again.
M pra sin.
Right. All right. Imprastin. All right. So notice you have we didn't go back over the breathing marks. On the first vowel, this word begins with a vowel, and every time you have a word that begins with a vowel or diphthong, you're going to have a breathing mark. If it looks like
Yes, sir.
it's called a what?
This one would be a smooth breathing mark.
Right, and so there's no change in its pronunciation at all.
But if it was a rough, it would be that H sound.
Right, so it'd be a backwards comma, right?
Yes, sir.
That would basically add a consonant to your the beginning of your word. The hem would be instead of the M kind of thing. So,
Okay.
all right.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Let's look at syllabification for. All right. So we had here that a consonant cluster that cannot be pronounced together, like the mu and the pi, are divided, are separated in part of a different syllable, right? But the other side of that is there are consonant clusters that can be pronounced together, and they go with the vowel that follows it, right? We already said Christos, right? You mentioned the sigma and the tau, so it goes with the omicron, and the kappa and the rho goes with the iota. So it's Christos. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
You want to say it?
Christos.
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 There you go. All right. Now, when double consonants are side by side, they would be divided. And so it'd be part of the two different syllables, right? So here you have two rows side by side, and so they would be divided in terms of syllabification, in terms of pronunciation. So it'd be, so you don't make two row sounds together. Ray, it's
Yeah.
par, re, si, ah. How many syllables are in this word?
5.
Okay, how many vowels are in this word?
5.
There you go. So notice the first word has a consonant that begins with it, and it's connected to, and for syllabification purpose, to the alpha, and it also ends this syllable with the rho because the next letter is a rho, and you just can't put them together when you pronounce them. It has to be pronounced as a separate syllable. So
Okay.
the rho, the eta, the sigma, the iota, and notice that the iota and the alpha are separated. Two vowels that are not diphthongs are separated and divided in pronunciation. So that's why you have 5 vowels, 5 syllables. So paresia.
Paresia.
No, paresia.
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 Yeah, because the accent. Okay, so paresia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Paresia.
And then compound words, we've already done antichristos.
Antichristos.
Right, antichristos. Now, obviously, anti can have its syllabification. It would be on T, 2 syllables, right? 2 vowels, 2 syllables. Christos would have how many syllables?
1, 2.
There you go. So there'd be 2 syllables. The kappa, the rho, the iota, and the sigma tau omicron sigma would be other syllables. So Christos, anti Christos. And all this point is that the compound words are divided where they're joined, the anti versus the Christos. That's all that's bringing out. Make sense?
Yes,
All right,
sir.
that's pretty much it for the chapter, brother. In summary, we looked at punctuation. We did look at the accents, and the significance about the accents is we have consistent pronunciation. And then we talked about syllabification, is how we divide the words so that we can pronounce them and very consistently. All right. So here's the thing. We will now want to move to vocabulary. Some people feel like vocabulary is very hard and no fun. It can feel that way. But as you kind of go through the words, you're learning, you're figuring out that you're learning a lot more than you really realize. There are only 5,423 words in the Greek New Testament that occur 138,167 times. So, do you need to learn all 5,423 words? Probably not. But notice that 313 of them, only less than 6%, occur 550 times or more. Those that occur 6 or more times, there are 319 total. So if you were to learn approximately 600 words over time, you know 80%. And that's a pretty easy read for the most part. It's very, what you really want to do is practice vocabulary, use the flashworks, the online flashworks, use the vocabulary cards. I think the vocabulary cards in alphabetical order, so it forces you to find the word for chapter. I always try to pull out the words for chapter 1, and then I practice chapter 1. Pull out the words for chapter 2, and I practice chapter 2. And that basically help you. The flashworks that's available under billmouse.com also is very useful. There are a whole bunch of other online useful and apps that are very useful for practicing. So whatever floats your boat.
Yes, sir.
Let's look at vocab. All right. So can you pronounce this word? How many syllables are there?
1, 2, 3.
All right.
4,
Forget
5.
no. Forget the after the comma. I'll talk about that in a minute. We hadn't
Okay.
got.
Yes, sir. So
So
1,
we hadn't
2,
got that far.
3.
So just the word that begins with the alpha and ends with the sigma, and the comma
Yes,
is
sir.
okay.
So there's 3.
Three syllables, right? 3 vowels, 3 syllables.
Yes, sir.
What do you do with the gamma?
Well, one of them would be pronounced as the N
Very good. As a noon.
because the nasal.
Okay. And where's the accent? What kind of breathing mark does it have?
So it's got a smooth.
Yeah.
So
I like
it
to
would
call
just
it
be
smooth,
pronounced
not regular,
would-
because that's what the book calls it. Yeah.
smooth,
Okay,
smooth,
where's
and
the accent at?
over the alpha.
Okay, over the beginning of the word. All right. So how would you pronounce this word? There's 3 syllables. The accent's on the first syllable. How would you pronounce it?
On,
That's 1 syllable.
on, L.
Where you get the L?
That's a lambda.
Yeah, you really missed something here. Start again.
On,
Yeah,
would it be Gel?
there's no gal. Why would you put the lambda with the first? If you put the lambda there, what happens to that omicron? If you put the lambda with the ga, what happens to the omicron? It's going to begin the syllable, right? Why would you move the lambda at the end? Okay, so let's just do this. Let me write something.
See, I thought the consonants they followed after.
No, we're not talking about consonants follow. We're talking about consonants that lead the vowel, right? All right, so let's do this. Hold on a minute. Let me see.
So would it be on, los?
Okay, what's the second syllable? What'd you say?
The epsilon.
No, you missed a whole consonant. Why would you miss? Hold on a minute. Let me see.
Okay, see, I'm getting confused with that because so both of
Hold on,
those
hold on,
gammas would be
hold on,
pronounced
hold on.
in.
Hold on. Let's do this, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so where do I make? I want to draw a line. Where do I draw the line for the first syllable ending?
The first line would be after that first gamma.
Okay, so right there, right? Where do I draw the next syllable ending?
After the lambda.
You think it would go right here? So there you'd get, how would you say that word?
Well, if it's with because it would what I'm trying to understand is both of those gammas are now pronounced as in.
No, why would both be pronounced as in? No. Okay, let me just clarify this, all right?
So would it okay, so the alpha and the gamma, and then the gamma and the epsilon, and then the lambda, omicron, sigma.
Right, and now the first gamma, you correctly, that's pronounced like a noon, an N, right? Our English.
Okay.
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 What's the second gamma pronounced as?
As a gamma.
As a G, right?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Okay.
so now pronounce it.
So it's on ge los.
All right. Put it together.
Angelos.
Angelos.
So angel.
There you go. You see, you already know the word. Okay.
Okay, so it's see, I thought I read it wrong because I thought both of them would be turned into that in and stay together. So
Only
it's
the
just
first.
only the first.
That's the
Yes, sir.
the gamma nasal, right?
Yes, sir.
But the second one remains a G sound, a hard gut sound, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All right,
So
then let's do the next.
Angela.
Angelos, and you already know the meaning. Now the other, the hyphen, omicron, upsilon, we're going to get to next week,
Yes, sir.
along with the what's called the definitive article here, the omicron with the rough breathing mark. That's not part of the word. It's giving us information so that we can understand the various changes associated with this word, but that comes next week. Okay.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
try this word here. How many syllables in this word?
2.
All right. Where would I make my division?
Between the mu and the eta,
Very good. I'd make my division right here then, right?
right down the middle.
Okay. Now, how would you pronounce it?
N.
What?
That's an eta. N.
A. Is a more of a. Main. Main.
Main.
Now,
Ain. Okay. Eta.
you
Ain.
see where the accent is? It's on the eta, right? So it's a
Yes,
main,
sir.
right?
Amen. Not
Amen.
amen. It's amen.
What does it
Okay.
mean?
Amen.
Amen. There you go. See how easy this is? Look how much we
Amen.
already know. All right. So the next word. Now, how many syllables are in this word?
1, 2, 3.
3. Very good. Where would I make my division?
Would you do it the alpha and or the not I'm saying them together. So after the new
Okay, right here.
and then after the omega,
Okay.
and then that's how it would be separated.
There's your 3. Okay, that's very good. Now notice you have a smooth breathing mark and the accent's on the first syllable, right? So pronounce it
Yes,
for
sir.
us.
On or ain.
No, on is correct. Like
On.
father, right?
Yes, sir. On. Throw.
Yep, like you're throwing something. On throw.
On throw. Pos.
Anthropos. Put it together.
Anthropos.
Very good. And what does it mean? You've heard it before. I know you have.
I have. Oh,
You can have an anthropos or a nair. A nair is one would be a specifically, uniquely this type of person. Anthropos could be humankind, male or female,
okay.
right?
So it means man.
Means man, right? Not uniquely.
Anthropos.
There's another word for just a man, a male, but anthropos can mean man, a person, right, or a mankind. But it typically is translated man.
Okay.
All mankind, not necessarily.
So when we're reading in like the New Testament and when Jesus says man, when it's being written down there, it's being
He's not
like,
necessarily talking about a male person.
yeah, he's talking about human. So he would use the word anthropos.
He could be talking about humankind. Context will tell you that. But
Yes, sir.
generally speaking, that is the case. Yes. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
So what is the this word? How many syllables are here?
4.
Okay. Where would I make my divisions?
After the pi.
Okay. You want me to make a division here?
I feel like I've already messed it up now.
Yeah, I feel like you have too.
So the would just be by
You have
itself.
us, right?
Yeah, up wouldn't. So it would just be the alpha.
There you go.
The ST can go together. The sigma tau can go together.
Okay. What do you want me to do then?
So we would
Stated a
put it after
fact,
the
you don't know
tau.
what to do. Huh?
Put it after the tau?
Put what after the tau? You want a division here? So you have
No, no, no. No,
husk.
no, no. Put it after the omega. Apa. And then after the omega again. And apostolos.
Very good. That's exactly it. Apostolos. What does that mean?
Apostle.
There you go. Right? Okay. All right, let's try this word. This has a capital gamma. Okay, so
Okay.
I bring that because we hadn't really studied the
I
capital
was
letter.
about to say, I was like, "Ooh, that's a new one."
That's a capital. The unschul gamma. All right, so just think of it as a lowercase gamma. Same thing, lowercase gamma. Where I'd put my syllables? Although it's capital for a reason. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So how many syllables? There's 1, 2, 3. So there's 5 syllables.
5?
One of them's the diphthong, the alpha iota.
So how many syllables are there?
1, 2, 3, 4.
There you go. Now where do we put the division?
So after the first alpha, after the iota, and then after the iota again.
Very good. Now how would you pronounce this? Notice where the accent is. It's all the diphthong, right?
Ga,
Yeah.
la,
No, not la.
or li,
Yeah.
ga, la, or ga, li.
How do you pronounce this diphthong? As in freight, eight.
So, oh, yes, sir. So, Galilea.
All right, so I put it together.
Galilea.
Now, what does it mean?
Galilee.
Yeah, that's why it's capital, because it's a name, Galileo.
So it's capital because it's a proper
name.
noun.
Proper name.
Proper name.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
Galilea.
Very good. There you go. All right. So let's go to the next word. That's how much time we got here. I'm going to move a little quicker. I may help with some of this because we have quite a few words here, but I'll let you do this one and any other hard ones you can do, and I'll do the easy ones. How's that?
Hey, that sounds good to me.
All right. How many vowels, syllables here? How many vowels?
2.
2, right?
2.
Where do we make our division?
After the alpha.
Why there?
Because that's your
Gamma
only.
row. When I make a division, the gamma row.
Because there's no vowel there.
Okay, no vowel there, but also yeah, exactly. And you can pronounce gamma row together, right?
Yeah, so grow.
Right? We say
Yeah.
grow. Okay. All right. And so how many syllables do you have?
2.
2, and that's it. So one line. And how would you pronounce this?
Gra.
Yep.
Thay.
Grafe.
Grafe.
Grafe, right?
Thay.
Ph.
Yeah. Oh, yes, sir. Grafe.
Right?
Grafe.
Okay. And what does it mean?
Graph. I don't know.
Close. It's writings.
Right. So like a paragraph.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, what I'm saying is like
you wanna make an
writing though.
association to remember the meaning, that's fine.
But it's the writing though.
It's writing, that's right.
Okay.
So yeah. All right.
So grafe.
All right, I'm going to run through the rest of these just for time's sake, but this is what you want to practice, and you want to practice these vocabulary words. All right. So this next one, I think I'll let you do this one because it's a fun one. How many syllables, and where do I make my division?
You put it there's two syllables and you put it after the omega. Or not omega, omicron. Omicron.
I don't find, I was looking for the omega. I don't see one. All right, so
Yeah.
start division, and how do you pronounce it? They got the accent on the first syllable.
Do
Why
or
would you use
da.
a long O or versus a short O,
So da,
right?
za.
Okay, now is that a Z sound or a DZ sound?
So it'd be Godza.
Where do you get the G sound?
Da, I'm sorry. I got confused with how the looks like a G somewhat. So da za.
Yeah, Dadza.
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 Dadza. Excuse me for the pronunciation on the Omicron. Dadza. It means glory.
Dadza. Means what?
Glory.
Okay.
All right.
Dadza.
Hey, unless I'm mixing something else up. I'm not perfect in all this, but so you see Datsa mean glory. Yeah, I thought so. That's right. Yeah. Been a while since I looked at it, so I didn't even look at it.
I was getting confused because I was thinking of that word Gaza that's
Well,
mentioned.
that's where they're having all the problems because of Ishmael. But that's
That's
not our
right.
study today. All right, can you pronounce this word?
Ego.
Yeah, and it means I. Here, this word. Can you pronounce this word?
Es. Eschatos.
Eschatos. Very good. Do you know what it means?
Eschatos. I don't.
Eschatos be last things, last days. The
Okay, so we.
eschatology be the end times, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. What about this word? How many syllables?
Two. So
All right.
it would be separated between the omega
And the eta, right? So how would
and
you
the
pronounce it?
eta. Zo e
So what? Let's put it together,
zoe.
right? What does it mean? Zoe,
I have no idea.
life.
Zoe,
So life, right?
life.
Is life. All right. What about this word? Can you do this one? This is really hard.
Theos.
And what does that mean?
Well, theos, God.
There you go. Could be God of the universe, the creator. It could be, pagan god, any god. No,
So they would use that for like if they were talking about Zeus or some one of those
it
pagan
would be.
gods.
That's
Okay.
right. That's exactly correct. Right. So even if they were to capitalize the theta, it doesn't necessarily refer to God of the universe. The context will tell you who it's talking about. It could be
Okay.
pagan god or any god. So we capitalize in English because we recognize it is a God, the creator. Anyway, now how about this word? This word occurs more times, over 5,000 times in all the New Testament. 5,230 something, I think, over 5,000 times. How many syllables?
Two.
Oh,
No. Just one because it's a diphthong.
there you go. How would you say it?
Chi.
Yeah, Kai. And it means and, but, also, even, all kinds of options. There's like,
Really? So yeah, that would be used a lot then.
yeah, so there's gonna be like 20 different ways to translate it. And is the most common, but also or even can be used. All right, we already did this word, cardia, meaning,
Heart.
right? And what about this word? We did this already.
Cosmos.
Cosmos, right?
Cosmos.
Meaning,
Cosma.
right?
World.
Or universe,
universe.
earth, whatever, right? World or universe. What about this word?
Logos. Logos.
Just be consistent. You can't say lo gos with a long and a short O.
So
And then
logos.
right? So it's either logos or logos, either one.
But it has to be consistent however you pronounce it.
You want to be
So
consistent.
logos.
That's right. So logos, and there's a debate by people, especially in the Bible software, logos, logos. Even when you listen to them, they don't get it. It's consistent. So
it means word.
logos meaning word, right? And what about this word? We're going to end. I'm going to go very quickly, and the rest of them do them, but after this word, so that you have time for your next class in 10 minutes.
1, 2, 3. So
well, here's a little bit of a trick question, because typically some people will pronounce that pie. Others will say it's silent.
okay.
I'm more of the silent nature.
So it wouldn't be penne.
Yeah, to me, those are two concepts that don't really go together, but you can't
Yeah.
separate them. So in
So
that
the
sense, it would
ne,
be a silent pay.
neuma.
Okay. Is epsilon, upsilon a two different vowels or a diphthong?
Well, it ends in an upsilon, so it would be a diphthong.
Yeah, the epsilon upsilon is a diphthong. You notice the
Yes, sir.
circumflex over it, right? So it's, how would you say it?
I can't remember.
Pneuma.
New,
Pneuma,
pneuma.
right?
Okay,
Two
pneuma.
syllables, right?
Pneuma.
A diphthong and the alpha, yeah,
Okay, I forgot about the diphthong thing,
that's
so I
fine.
separated the epsilon and the upsilon.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that.
So nema.
You'll end up in grammar jail if you do that.
I'm trying not to.
In the family. All right, so here's prophetes. We've already done this word, meaning
Prophet.
right?
Prophetes.
And okay, pneuma means what? Do you remember what pneuma? You know what pneuma means?
Pneuma.
Pneumatos, spirit. The
Spirit.
spirit of God, our spirit, pneuma, right? Or wind. It can mean wind as well.
So
All right,
when Jesus is talking about with Nicodemus,
right.
so when he says wind, it could be pneumos, which could also mean
It would probably
spirit.
be, I have to go double check, but probably is the word pneuma.
Okay.
All right. So prophetes was the prophet. What about this word? Well, because of time, I'm going to go here. It's just, notice the two consonants together that will separate. So it's sabbatan. So we have
Yes,
one, two,
Sabaton.
3 syllables. Sabbatan.
Sabaton.
It means, what does it sound like? Sabbatan. Sabbath. The Sabbath day. Sabbatan.
Okay. Sabaton.
All right, what about this word? This is 2 syllables. Phone. Phone,
Phone.
voice. Phonograph.
Phone.
We get our word phonograph, phone. All right, and what about here? We have Christos, we've done Christ. All right, here's some names. Abraham. Notice the 2 alphas will split. Abraham. Who would be Abraham?
Abraham.
Very good. Who would be David?
David.
Okay, and who would it be? Palos.
Pilate. Or Paul.
Palos. Paul, there you go. Who would be Petros?
Peter.
Okay, who would be Pilatos?
Pilate.
There you go. And Simon?
Simon.
Okay, and congratulations, you did great. There is quiz number 4, and you want to do the homework for number 4, but we won't meet until after PTP, so you have quite a bit of time. Although that Friday on the 23rd is where we would normally go ahead and meet, and you'd have the homework there. However, we're driving back, so we probably will just combine the homework with the next class on, which we'll do now. Well, Yeah, next week on Tuesday, we'll meet and we'll do nouns. We'll actually start into looking at grammar and nouns, and we'll look at the article and some other things here. We'll give meaning to these at least to the alpha. It's the article there at the very end. We'll give meaning to all that. So that'll be next Tuesday. But what this means is you'll have homework from chapter 4 and chapter 6. 5 is an introductory chapter on English nouns. No homework there. Chapter 6 has homework. So you'll have quiz number 4 and quiz number 6, or actually quiz number 5 for chapter 6. And you'll have homework for homework chapter 4 and chapter 6. But you won't actually present that until a week after the 23rd, which I think would be very near the end of August, last Friday in August, I think. And
Okay.
we'll have time. Now, there is a class, I don't want to look it up and I'll send it to you. There's a class I want to require you to go to at PTP. Justin Rogers is doing a Greek language class. I think it's an introductory one. So I'm going to look for that and tell you when it is. And if there's no conflict with any other classes you're required to do, which I don't think there are, because you'll have the Psalms class on Friday and a couple other classes from Synoptics and from Introduction to New Testament. But this other class on Greek, I want you to go to. And Justin Rogers is really good at this stuff. So I think you'll enjoy it.
Is there anything you want from that?
No, I just want you to attend it.
Yes, sir. So by Tuesday, I need to have test 4 done. I wanted to make sure.
I didn't set a date for that because I'm not going to go over it until it'd be good if you get it done, you can send it to me, and it makes more sense to do it that way. But if you don't get it done until we get back from PTP, I don't have a problem with that because I want to stay consistent in getting those things done and grade it so that you can see your grade and any problems you have. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to get too far behind. I want to end this because one, they need the Zoom to do the Psalms class, and you'll need to get into it. So I'm going to go ahead and end our meeting, and appreciate you, brother.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Dave.
Okay. So let's see, make sure I've stopped recording.